Next up in the redo series, here's our little acorn friend. To make this little acorn cat toy or toy for you or anyone else, doesn't have to be a cat, you'll need a 4mm crochet hook, some scissors, yarn needles. You want worsted weight yarn in a color for the cap and a color for the nut part of your acorn, and some sort of stuffing. Catnip's totally optional. If you'd like to follow along with a written pattern for this toy, you can find a link in my bio. It is available on Amazon, on Kindle. You can kind of see the cover right there. That's what it looks like. It's a little collection, whole bunch of different cat toys there for you. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started making this little acorn. Our acorn's getting worked from the bottom up, so the cap will be last. We're going to start with a magic circle, so we're crossing our long end over the short, holding where they cross, going through the front. We're going to wrap our yarn, pull it up, wrap, pull through there one more time. Now we're going to work 6 single crochets into our magic circle, so we're going in, wrapping our yarn, pulling it up, wrapping and pulling through the 2 on the hook. And we're just doing that until we have 6 in total. Once we have those 6, we'll close up our circle. And then we can move on to round 2. So we've got our 6 single crochets there. I'm going to take that short end and we're going to pull on it, and that's going to close up that little circle there. And then to close the circle completely, we're going to go through the very first stitch we started there and wrap the yarn. And we're going to slip stitch through there and through the loop on the hook. So now we're all connected. We'll chain 1, and before we move on to round 2, we're going to flip this over and thread a yarn needle onto our tail. Once you have that tail on your yarn needle, we're just going to grab a little piece of any stitch in that starting round. We're going to go through until we've got just a little loop there, and then we're going to go back through that loop and just make a little knot. It just makes it a little extra secure. It will be fine on its own, but if you've got like a cat that really likes to rip stuff up, you want to just kind of secure everything as much as you can. So now we can move on to round 2. So for round 2, all we're doing is a single crochet, 1 in each stitch. So at the end of the round, you'll have 6. So you're just going into those tops there, wrap, pull up, and then you'll wrap to pull through those 2, and you keep going. You'll slip stitch to join when you get to the end. We'll chain 1 to prepare for round 3, and I will meet you back for round 3. Our first 2 rounds are done. Our next one, round 3, is going to be an increase round. In each stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets. So we're going in, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through the 2 on the hook, and then we're going back into that exact same spot. And we're repeating that all the way until the end. We'll slip stitch to join at the end, so you're joining the very last stitch with the very first stitch. We'll chain 1 to get ready for round 4. You should have 12 stitches across the top when you get to the end, and then we will meet back together for round 4. Round 3 is done. Round 4, we've got one more increase round. On the very first stitch, we're doing 1 single crochet, so you're just going in right to that stitch where our little chain came from, kind of right below there, and then the next one will be 2, whoop, and we're repeating that all the way around. So you got 1 and then 2 in the next single, and then 2 single crochets into that next stitch, right back into that same spot. We'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and then for rounds 5, 6, and 7, you're going to do plain single crochets all the way around. You'll slip stitch at the end of each round, chain 1, and then for round 8, you've got another plain round, but we won't slip stitch at the end. So you're going to keep going plain single crochets after this round. Every round you're working on from here until 8, we'll all have 18 stitches at the end. And we'll keep going, keep going, keep going, business as usual until you get to round 8, and that's where we are going to take a little pause before we do our join, because that's where we're going to change colors. So go ahead and keep going, and we will meet back here at the very end of round 8. We are done up to round 8. We're going to change color, so we're going to keep our hook in that last little stitch that we made. That way we don't lose that little piece that's there as we tie the cap color to the color you were just using. So I'm just going to kind of make a little double knot, tying them together, bringing the knots as close to where the hook is as I can, and as close to the inside, working toward the inside of the toy with the knot as possible. So now that we've got that going, we're going to be able to cut away the old color. So just taking your scissors, giving that a little bit of a snip, and we're just going to keep any tails that we have at this point toward the inside of the toy. They're just going to end up stuffed inside, so we don't have to weave them in or anything. We're just putting them in there. If they're too long, feel free to trim them down. So now that we've got that on, we are going to slip stitch into that very first stitch, and then through that one that's left on the hook, we're going to chain one. And we've got an increase around here, but the only thing that's going to be a little different is we're going to be working through the front loop only. So we're doing 2 single crochets and every stitch all the way around. So it's going to take us from 18 to 36 stitches. But again, we're going through just the front loops. So I'll show you on the next one. It's a little bit hard to tell with the join there. So we're going 2 single crochet, and then we're going right back into that same space. Now you should be able to see that front loop only sort of situation a little better. So the V there, that's the back, that's the front. We're going to grab just the front, and then again, every little spot is going to get 2 stitches. That's just going to make the cap kind of stick out away from our little acorn nut there. Once you get to the end, we will slip stitch to join, and then our next round will be plain single crochet. So you're going to do 1 in every stitch, working normal. You don't have to worry about going through the front loop only anymore for that next round. And we will get back together for round 11. So finish this increase, 1 plain, and then we'll meet back up. Okay, we're ready for round 11. Round 11 is going to be a decrease round. It's going to take us from 36 stitches down to 18. So we're going to go ahead and chain 1 if you haven't already. And then we are going to be working 2 stitches together all the way toward the end. So we're going through, maybe you'll do it this way, maybe you'll decrease a different way, up to you guys. I like to grab the front loops only. We'll wrap, pull through both of those, wrap, and pull through the last 2 on the hook. So show you again. We're going to go in, front loop only, next one, wrap, pulling through both of those loops that we went through, wrap, pull through the last 2 on the hook. And then again, we're repeating. When you get to the end, we're back down to 18. You'll see the cap start to kind of curve in a little bit. And then we're going to be ready for adding some catnip and stuffing. So go ahead, finish this round, and we'll talk about adding our stuffing. Okay, with round 11 done, we are ready for catnip and stuffing. If you're going to add catnip, I would do that first, then your stuffing. As you're putting the stuffing in, you want to get as much as you feel like you need into the bottom. And then as you're filling up the top part, making sure that you're sort of fluffing it into that empty space there, so that the cap really stays a little bit rounded. And then we're going to have another decrease round and a couple more rounds. And if you feel like you need any more stuffing after that, you can always add it before we close it up. But this is going to be where the bulk of your stuffing is. So go ahead and put that stuff in, and we will get back together for round 12. Okay, I've added my stuffing. We're going to go ahead and do that next decrease round. It's going to be the same as the last one. The only difference is, instead of going from 36 to 18, we're going to be going from 18 stitches down to 9. So we're just grabbing the front loops only. Every stitch we do is going to be a decrease stitch. Wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through the 2 on the hook. Once you get to the end, we'll slip stitch to join, and then those next 2 rounds are going to be plain single crochet rounds. So at the end of this one and the end of the next 2, you'll have 9 stitches. And then we will meet back for round 15, where it'll get just a little different, and then we'll be just about almost done here with our acorn. Round 15 is our last round. We've got a little decrease coming up here. We're going to go 1 single crochet in the first stitch, just plain old single crochet, and then that next one is going to be a decrease stitch. So again, whatever decrease you like, but I like to go through those front loops, wrap, Pull through both of those, or pull through the one on the hook. When we get to the end here, we should have 6 stitches across the top. We will slip stitch to join. We won't be chaining one because this is our last round. We're going to be closing everything off here. So we'll need our scissors and our yarn needle again. And we'll just use those scissors to tie off a kind of a medium tail here, nothing too crazy. So we're going to slip stitch, wrapping that yarn and joining there. Okay, we're leaving that hook in there so we don't lose that. Cutting enough of a tail just so we can use it to weave the tippy top there closed. And then we're going to grab our yarn needle. Okay, before we thread that yarn needle on, we're just going to wrap our yarn around our hook one last time, and that very last loop we'll pull all the way through there to tie it off. So now we do still have a little bit of an opening here. That's what we're going to take care of next. Threading our tail onto our yarn needle. We don't need to tie that tail on there. We'll just leave it kind of hanging a little loose there. We're going to go into the very first stitch, out from the next one with our needle. And we're going to do that 2 more times. That should take us all the way back around to the beginning of our round. And then once you're there, when we pull on that tail, that will close up that little hole there. And right maybe where those slip stitches are, we'll go back through with our yarn needle, pulling until we've got just a little loop here. We're going to go through and we'll pull to make a little knot. We want that knot to be as tight as we can get it. And then whichever direction that knot lays the flattest, we are going to go through the toy with the yarn needle. So as far down as you can get it. Then we're going to pull, put a little tension on there, take those scissors, and then cutting as close to the toy as you can without cutting any part of the toy. There we go. And then we'll give it a little squish just so that tail pops right back in. And then our little acorns are done. So you can go ahead and give that to your kitty cat. I hope they enjoy it. Thank you so much for crocheting with me.